I'm Huon Hook, and this is The Real Review. The wine we're tasting now is Vino Intrepido, Blood of My Blood, Sangiovese, 2019, and the grapes come from Heathcote. So the backstory of Vino Intrepido. It's a new entity. It's only recently established by a man called James Scarisbrooke. 2016, he decided to have a go at making some Italian varieties. Now, James has some Italian background in his family. Obviously, the name Scarisbrooke is not Italian, but he worked in bottle shops for a while. He worked selling wine to the public, and he loved selling them Italian wines and Italian varietals, and enthusing about how these wines tasted so good and went so well with food. He did a fair bit of travelling in Italy as well, and he has an Italian step-grandfather and a mother who lived in Italy for quite a while. And they gave him a love of the language, the hospitality, the cuisine, and that inspired James to follow his interest in Italy. 2016 was his first vintage that he produced wine. He makes a Friulano, a Nebbiolo, a Rosé, or Rosato, as the Italians might say, a Fiano and a Pinot Grigio, as well as a Sangiovese. So there's 6 different wines that he's producing already, and they're made in very small quantities. Vino Intrepido. So he's trying to give you the impression, which is probably a correct one, that he is an adventurer in wine. He is a bit of a thrill seeker and maybe a bit of a risk taker. And this is a Sangiovese. It's a wonderful grape variety, Sangiovese. It's the most widely grown red grape variety in all of Italy. It's grown pretty much from the top to the bottom of Italy, but the best wines from Sangiovese come from the centre of Italy, Tuscany especially. Sangiovese is the backbone of Chianti, of course, and Brunello di Montalcino, and Vino Nobile di Montepulciano. This is his 3rd attempt at making a Sangiovese. It's called Blood of My Blood. All of James's wines have intriguing titles, but they're all related to the grape in some way. How does that relate to Sangiovese? Well, in any Latin language, I think Sangio or sang means blood, and Jove is it's the blood of Jove. So Sangiovese would be how they pronounce it over there. And so Blood of My Blood. I think there's also some reference to Game of Thrones in there, but I'm not a Game of Thrones follower, so I can't comment on it. The fruit for this wine came from Heathcote, but it came from a single vineyard in Heathcote called the Whistling Eagle Vineyard, which is quite a well-known vineyard in the north of the region. Well, Sangiovese is a very, very distinctive, idiosyncratic variety. It doesn't taste like other varieties. It has its own personality. Don't look for a deep colour with Sangiovese. It's not always dark coloured, and this wine is medium deep, medium dark red with a good purple tint. So it's youthful and fresh looking colour, but it's not particularly dark, and that is not necessarily a bad sign, because it's not really the colour that leads you to know that it's a full-bodied wine or a medium-bodied wine or anything like that. But ignore the colour with a lot of Italian red varieties. Let's have a sniff. Lovely nose, and it's not about pure primary fruit. It's about more than that. It's about dried herbs, dried flowers, earth, porcini mushrooms, dried mushrooms, really a savoury kind of nose rather than a fruity nose. Really, really exotic, interesting, something that fascinates you. That is really a very good attempt at, I guess, paying homage to a classic Italian style of wine, because it's not a fruity wine, it's not a big wine, it's an intense wine, it's got concentration, a length of palate, but it's very focused and it's very alive, it's got a lot of vitality, but the flavours are savoury. There's cured meats, there's dried mushrooms, there's a touch of cola even. Interesting wine indeed, and a wine that you will never get bored drinking that wine. Every time you taste it, you'll find something different in it. To me, that's the definition of complexity. It's not a simple fruit wine, and I suspect that's what James is trying to do with this wine. It's a food wine. So how do we rate this wine? We scored it 93, which is a very strong silver ribbon score. And it was number 4 out of 27 Sangioveses from Australia from 2019 vintage. And it's a top ranked wine. We think that you can drink it from now until 10 years hence. I've no problem with keeping it longer than that, but I think that between now and 10 years hence is a good window to drink it. If you like Italian style wines because they go beautifully with food, this wine is exactly that kind of wine. We asked James Scarisbrick himself what he would serve with it, and he said his favourite would be Bistecca Fiorentina, which is a really thick cut of T-bone steak that they serve in Tuscany, in Florence, places like that. I totally agree with it. His second alternative is slow-cooked wild boar. Well, you might have to go to Italy to get the slow-cooked wild boar. We don't see much of that in Australia. His third effort is for, I guess, vegetarians or people who would rather not eat meat, and that is mushroom risotto. Totally agree with that. And I think the mushrooms in the risotto would chime in with those mushroomy fungal flavours in the wine itself. Cheers to that.